Continuing our theme with Haynes, we bring in our second favorite Haynes, Darren Haynes, from Canadian Press, formerly The Athletic. One time, Flames 80 feet away or something. It was a great. What did I say it wrong again?
You're in the neighborhood.
I'm in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm pretty excited that I cracked the top two Hayneses. That's
yeah. We had Akeem Haynes elite. At number 1 and Darren Haynes at number 2, and then the underwear at number 3.
Yeah,
that was our unofficial top 3 of Hayneses.
Oh, I'm ahead of the underwear. That's solid. That's yeah. I've heard a lot of underwear jokes. Over the years.
You have?
None of them original beyond grade 5. So,
in level or at grade 5?
Yeah, they were about grade 5 caliber jokes too. Yeah.
Yes. All right. I don't even know where you want to start on this. It seems like every year, even when I wasn't in the business, you and I would have these conversations. We would talk about the local hockey heroes. And I don't remember a year in which we said, well, this is weird, or this is different, or this is an anomaly, or anything. But this time I mean it, Darren. This time I really, really mean it. This was, as far as watching a team, covering a team, talking about a team, this one had a little bit of everything on the one side of the column and not enough on the other side of the column.
Yeah, I entirely agree. I called it that as soon as the season ended. Like, I don't recall a stranger one. Were they close? It's hard to know. Like, it felt like they were close. For all the consternation, for all the things that were swirling and going wrong and underperforming, and yet they hung around. And so yeah, just a really strange year. And all the years usually, it felt the ups and downs, like the 5-1 start, and then like the what was it, 7-17?
Yeah,
in overtime. Like the funny thing to me,
24 overtime and shootout games.
You look at two of the biggest. I know it's a long list, but two of the biggest reasons why they're cleaning out their lockers today is factors that would not be factors had they still been playing, and that is they couldn't beat teams that aren't playoff teams. Now they became one of those as a result, but that inability to beat teams that they actually wouldn't face if they could get to the playoffs. They actually played super good and really well against the playoff teams. And then 3-on-3 overtime. They're no good at that. Yeah. But there's no 3-on-3 overtime in the playoffs, right? So it's funny how those two things that aren't factors come the playoffs ended up keeping them from making the playoffs.
Let's talk about the 3-on-3 for a second. Was that strategic, or was that just a run of bad, dumb luck? I go back to that game in Vancouver on Saturday, and the first 90 seconds, nothing happened, and then everything happened. And, I don't, it's not like I watched this team 3-on-3 and they never had the puck. It's not like I watched this team 3-on-3 and they were in a, defensive triangle. They just, I don't know how to describe it other than they just never scored.
Yeah, I think strategic did play into it early. Like, I think early, I think you saw them try to address it. I think early you saw them forcing. And what often happens is you're taking a shot from a bad angle. You're trying to go hard to the net. You get stripped. Now you got 2 guys down low in the puck, and 3 guys are going the other direction. So I think strategic was a legitimate. I think that was an issue early. You can't do that. So I think you saw them learn from that patient circle back. You don't like what you see, circle back, like keep possession. Yeah. Try for that better chance rather than forcing an okay chance. Right. So I think there was that, and how often did we see when things did get a little chaotic, that a theme throughout all 60 minutes, including the extra 5, is they didn't get the stop from their goalie, and the other teams were getting the stops, right? So between those two things, that overtime record kind of reflected kind of what they were. It's a little worse than that, but
yeah, no, I mean, and again, not as an excuse. It's just more of, that's a staggering number. The staggering number that you win 7 of the 24 times that you went into overtime. Staggering number. right? Like you're a baseball guy. You're wearing a baseball. You know the old lines the managers give you. You know, in a baseball season, you expect to win a third. You expect to lose a third. It's what you do with that other third that determines your fate. And I think we can make that case about the Flames in overtime and shootouts this year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no. Was that attributed to Sparky Anderson, I think, where it's like in baseball, you're going to win 50, you're going to lose 50, and what do you do with the other 62? Like, I love that line because I've always felt that way. I've actually used that post game with players. Like sometimes it's just not your night, and like you're not going to win them all. So do you just kind of throw it away? I often thought there's some truisms there, but yeah, just like that in itself was such a bizarre thing. And Matt, if they ever did get to a shootout, you know, that didn't look very good either. The lack of you know, like what you saw, it was easy to say, why are they using Backlund? Why are they using Nick Ritchie in the shootout? But then you look at some of the other shootout percentages, and they're not much better, right? So
But was Nick Ritchie a signal? Was Nick Ritchie for the lack of a better term, kind of a middle finger to the detractors?
I've heard that theory. I'm not buying it. I think there's some hunches involved.
You said there was a number, like he had scored against Saros earlier this year in a shootout, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
On his only penalty shot or his only shootout attempt in 5 years, right? So it's just, he's not a regular. It felt like an odd choice. I mean, at some point, I understand Tyler Toffoli's shootout record isn't very good either, but he also hadn't scored 35 goals before. This is a guy that's been feeling it, right? So it did seem a little bit odd.
But I would have been more, and I don't know, maybe I'm just hindsighting this. I would have been more apt to put Stone out there and let him pull the old Dion Phaneuf, right? Just wire one from between the hash marks, scare the hell out of the goalie, put him first, right?
That shot has not slowed down at all.
No, it has not. It has not.
Was it Vladar? I think this morning at exit interviews said he just wants to make sure he's on the same team as Stone. He doesn't want to be facing those things.
Yeah. You've taken me to the goaltenders. Let's. I mean, you go from Jennings-esque, Vezina-esque to the other end of the spectrum. The Flames have a goaltending department. They have goaltending coaches. I just don't. I'm not sure I've ever seen anything quite like this year when it came to the goaltending and it came to the starters.
Yeah.
In terms of pedigree, I mean, in fairness, Joey McDonald, yes, I've seen that before. But, Markstrom was not Joey McDonald.
No. Yeah, like it's funny, I think you mentioned all the supports and the coaches and I really feel like maybe the most important guy not listed there and maybe need a couple of them or a team of them is the sports psychologist. Like I just wonder how much of that kind of became a mental grind when things aren't going well. All the games are hinging on your back because they're all 1-goal game. You're clearly not getting a ton of offense to work with. Every goal against feels like, and I think as the season went on and you're chasing it, then that doesn't, the pressure doesn't get any less. It's just getting more and more, right? So I think if you're a fan, you're relieved at how, you saw Markstrom turn around his game in the last 2 months, 6 weeks, whatever that kind of period was. I do feel they again overused him down the stretch. I think they, Dan Vladar needed to be mixed in a little bit more, but when he got his chances, how this coach rolls, you got to really he's got to have real confidence in you. And I think he lost the confidence of the coach.
He Curtis McElhaney'd him at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what's crazy about Vladar's season, at one point, the collective we were doing the count about he's done 10 games without a loss. Now he's gone 12 games and set a new record or whatever. We're chasing a record, right? At one point, he was on quite a nice little roll.
Yeah. The one, is he the 1A? Is he the 1B? I mean, that was
a legitimate conversation. Did he not get a back-to-back at one point?
Sure. Yeah, sure he did. There was a couple of times where Markstrom got kind of a bit of a breather, and that's kind of how it worked. It seemed like they would give a little bit of that breather, and then, but yeah, I think there's still something there in Vladar. I think it's just really tough when you're playing that infrequently to get your game back, right? So when I think, you're really, so I felt for him because then he gets in, and now the weight of needing to put up a 0 to stay, to get another chance within the next couple of weeks is really what he rode. But
right.
And then we had an interesting sneak preview, didn't we? In game 82, and at what point do they have to?
Yeah, I want to push back on that a bit. Do you mind? Do you mind if I make you the scapegoat for the rest of the media in this city?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you mind if I do that? Is it all right if I just plot all the?
I'm good with it. I've been that before.
I thought a little bit too much was made about him in Coronato after that game. That was a glorified preseason game.
Sure,
that's what it was.
Yeah,
and that's what I expected. But now, having said that, let me argue with myself here a bit, Darren, because I've done that before too.
You want me to stick around, or you
stick around for it. You can stick around, maybe help me out if you want. But on a couple of the power plays, he faced down Erik Karlsson and Couture and Hurdle, who I think we would agree are everyday NHLers, right? Not taking anything away from Noah Gregor. I think he's an NHLer too. But I just felt like it was less about what they did and more about we needed something to glom onto. Like we needed hope. Like not we, but the city wanted hope. And in this game, Coronato looked as good as anybody else out there did. Wolf won the game, made some stops. I just felt like that's not enough for me to determine whether or not he's up here next year. And you kind of talked a little bit about it too. What are you going to do? Bring him up here and let him caddy? Is that the best way to develop a 22-year-old goalie?
Yeah, no, I don't think he earned.
No, I'm not saying you, and I'm not saying you said that, Darren. I'm not. Right. I'm not saying anybody said that. I thought the reaction was a little bit much.
Yeah, no, but I think this has been a dark cloud for a long time. So
100%.
So when you're indoors staring out at dark sky, and that first sunny day happens in April, I think people do go.
This is why we bring you on, because you can make those analogies.
So I think am I thinking either of those guys will be on the whatever October 5th, 7th, 10th, whatever it is, opening night roster next year? Maybe Coronato, doubtful for Wolf. I think they go back to the same duo. But I do think that he's certainly making it. He's getting himself into that conversation where at some point, I think this is just, you didn't ask, but I'll give you my opinion on how this plays out.
I asked you to come on to give me opinions, so you're fine.
You roll with the two guys that you had. You go back to 60-40, maybe like 60-40 split. I don't think you'd give Markstrom the first 10 games. You've got a guy in Vladar. You need to get back to using him, and you kind of see where it goes. You have Wolf playing again twice a week or 3 times a week in Calgary in the AHL. So you got to keep him playing. He's not going to become the starter just at the snap of the fingers, right? So you got to keep him playing. That he needs to be starting somewhere, not backing up. And you see how the season begins. And if he looks and continues to play well, you start thinking about, wait, maybe we make a decision here. Because as much as it's nice to have the luxury of having 3 deep in the crease, if Dustin Wolf shows that, he is ready to turn NHL, you can't hang on to depth everywhere. Like at some point you have to just kind of, and if you have an injury, then you might have to, you know what I mean? Like you then go get another journeyman, right? But you can't always have a backup plan. And Wolf's good. Like let's keep Wolf in the minors just in case we get an injury. At some point you're going to have to promote him. So maybe that's halfway through the season next year. Maybe you flip Vladar if he's having a decent year to someone for a third round pick. I don't know.
So for old guys like you and me, who's Wolf? Who does Wolf remind you of right now?
Well, for old guys, like all the goalies we grew up watching, because none of them were tall.
But who? As soon as I say it, you're going to go, that's the smartest thing you've ever said in your entire life. As soon as I say it, Vernon. What do you mean? That is the smartest thing I've ever said in my life. Holy cow.
Well, that may be true.
Oh, wow. You don't see it? They're smallish goalies that are athletic, that I'm not sure the expectation necessarily was there, but Vernon came up in the middle of a season and kind of rolled and never looked back. And I don't think Wolf is going to ever start out of the gate here. I think he's going to come up in the middle of a season and he's going to roll and never look back.
Yeah. Yeah, it could happen, and that could be the way it plays out if the goaltending is struggling. If they get the year they got this year from the tandem, then that could be November when that happens.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. But in terms of how it could all play out, yes, I understand that.
But also because I've done this long enough to know that nobody escapes, the wrath, as it were, of a fan base or a media base or whatever. And I'm already prepared for it. Watching that game against San Jose on Wednesday or wherever it was, I'm already prepared. What's today? Yeah, Friday. I'm already prepared for it that, he might win Vezina after Vezina after Vezina. He might win a Conn Smythe, but he's going to have a bad game and somebody's going to call a sports talk show somewhere and go, he's too small. Right? Am I wrong? Right? That he's going to have, and I hate it, but that's the reality of the world we live in right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is because it's switched so much. Like I remember doing a piece on this, and it might have been when they drafted him actually. So it was probably about 3-4 years ago, and I went back and I did the research, and it's completely flipped. So I'm just going to use ballpark figures, but it was something like there were 4 or 5 guys taller than 6 foot. And now there's only 4 or 5 guys less than 6 foot. It's completely flipped, right? Where I think it was like Michael Ute, Tom Barrasso. There was a few guys but those guys were giants. Like 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah.
And now, and you just can't get away. And what I think gives you reassurance that it can be done is the kind of year that UC Saros had in Nashville, because that's always been the comparison. I remember first development camp, that's exactly what Jordan Siegel had said. There's so many similarities. That's the guy. And so at that time, UC Saros, what was he? Well, he was a guy trying to break into the NHL. This was 4 years ago. He's can he be a good backup? Well, not only that, a full-time starter, and only that, a workhorse, right? So those are reasons to believe that maybe it's not as much of a unicorn as you think to have this guy an inch taller. Like, where does he get drafted? Just even looking at the credentials that draft year, if he's 1 inch or 2 inches taller, like second round,
easily, he might have snuck into the first.
Yeah,
and we're not saying for a fact. You're absolutely right. Like, you are absolutely right. And he went within 4 bodies of not even getting drafted.
Yeah, right at the very end, right at the last, and the credentials were off the charts. But so it's funny. It's been interesting to follow because you say, wow, junior, like see how. So he goes back and he does it again. Okay, well, pro, let's see how that goes. And in that first game at the Saddledome with the canvassed off seats and the relocated.
I called it, man. Like, here he comes. Oh my God. Like, Rich Clune scored. No. But then, like, within a game or two, he was, standing on his head, spinning around with spitting wooden nickels.
Yep.
You could tell he was special.
And then he did it again. And he did it again.
And he did it again. That's what I mean. Like, it's almost, in a way, we had Marco Carducci on from the Cavalry a couple days ago. There's another keeper, right? And he was talking about, not definite, but he thinks if he wanted to, he could have got a contract with an MLS team, but he would have backed up. means you wouldn't have played. And if you don't play, you don't develop. And, you get talking about that soccer. You almost wish you could loan the kid somewhere, like, loan him to Chicago. Let Chicago have him for a year.
Yeah.
Right. But you can't, you won't, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Thought on Coronato quickly, because it was only one game, but he just looked like he belonged. If I had just started watching it and I would have had a list of questions for you, one of my questions would not have been, how many games does this kid play?
Yeah, no, I think I think it's so dangerous. It's a first impression. It's game 82. Mark Jankowski scored 4 goals in a game 82. Things can happen in game 82.
Yes, but Sven Berchi scored in 5 games straight, and you could tell he was, it was by accident. Right? He wasn't dominating. He just happened to score. Right? Remember that start?
Yeah, I do remember. Dare I say, it was sensational.
It was sensational. Or Roman Cervenka, Cervenka.
Oh yeah,
right.
When he was no longer the best hockey player outside
the NHL, and when we found out he was scared of really strong breezes, those guys, you could tell, like, it wasn't long term for them. I'm just saying. He looked
impressions, right? Here's a guy that had the puck on a stick quite a bit, and looked comfortable and looked like he loved to carry it and just would blast through the neutral zone with confidence. I mean, when you go into a new league and you're a new guy on a new team, you're sometimes deferring. But no, he seemed to be around it. He can fire it, and that's he's got a skill set that they were so badly needing all year. Not to say that he's going to deliver that next year, but you remember when Tkachuk fell to the Flames, and that was the kind of the exact type of player they needed.
Yes,
they needed, and he checked all the boxes.
Yes.
Well, Coronato is when he's ready, and that might be October, that might be January, maybe it's October 2025. But whenever he's ready, he's a guy that has the toolkit, from the pure scorer, right shot, like that's what they need. So they'll be kind of anxious for that skill set to arrive, because it's going to boost the lineup.
When you get your own show with your name in the name bar, when you rip off David Letterman and steal his stuff, you have the opportunity to go on rants every once in a while. And I feel like I've ranted on this a couple of times, but I'm not sure I've ever been pushed back on it. And maybe you don't want to push back on it. But I go back to the beginning of this conversation and the 24, overtime shootout games, the graphic Gavin put up about, tied for the third most one goal. There you go. 1 goal losses in a season.
That's amazing.
I really think the mistake this year was Matt Phillips. I really think that, and that's an awful lot to put on a rookie. That's an awful lot to put on a guy that has never proven it game in, game out in the National Hockey League. But I really believe that was there for them. His games in Toronto and Montreal, he did not look out of place. They scored on a power play, which he was part of. I think if he given some runway or given some time, I think he could have made a difference for this club. But, and it leads into another question about, utilization. But do you feel at all anywhere close to what I'm saying? Or do you think it's, again, unproven rookie, you can't really make a statement like that?
No, I completely agree. And I will say, right? He hasn't improved himself at the NHL level, because you know what? You can't if you don't get a chance to prove yourself at the NHL level. That's the opportunity that didn't really present itself. 2 games, modest ice time in each, 100%. Like, I'm sitting here today saying, I don't know. I'm not going to say he could have been Marty St. Louis or he will be Marty St. Louis. He's not built anywhere like Marty St. Louis. But could he be an NHLer? I think he can be. I'm not prepared to say for sure he will be, but I guarantee you, I don't know that what he is. And that 2 games did not tell me. It did not tell me yes. It did not tell me no. He needed more time. There was certainly opportunity to do that when again, like if you had 40 more goals, 20 more goals, the season's still going, right? And there was opportunities in that lineup, but he didn't fit the stereotype of what a fourth line player should look like. And under the person that's making the drawing up the lineup card, and I think that worked against them. And I think it's an old dying version of what the fourth line should look like. Yep. I mean, I think there's one thing if Matt Phillips is 20 years old in his second year pro and you want him playing 20 minutes a night, but at some point when he's in year 5 or year 4, let's move on from that. So if he's only playing 9 or 10 minutes a night and it's in the NHL and you have a chance to put him out in overtime on a power play in a shootout and you're bringing some energy and some chance to score for the fourth line, that's okay. Like it's okay. You're not ruining his development. That's helping your team at those 9 or 10 minutes. Right. So but there's never been a history of small guys, having much success, under Darryl Sutter. If you look at the kind
Johnny
of size
Gaudreau had his best season
Los
ever.
Angeles,
right?
Yeah,
Johnny Gaudreau had his best season ever, and it's not like you were trying to bring him into the lineup with Johnny Gaudreau. And I know it's the Dustin Wolf, Paul Byron, Nathan Gerby conversation. I get it, I understand it, but maybe I should do it this way, Darren. Maybe that's just a reflection of what I think is a bigger issue here. And before we get into Darryl and GM and all of that, before I took this show, I wasn't really active a lot on social media with hockey and stuff like that, but the Pelche stuff bothered me. So I just put out a tweet and I just said, look, all due respect to Darryl, he's won 2 Stanley Cups. I appreciate that. But I think part of the job of a National Hockey League coach nowadays is you also have a responsibility to develop young players. And Darryl does not Darryl does not agree with that.
No.
And I got a little bit of feedback. Well, Darryl, but I think it's about change. And I think when Darryl was here in 03, 04, yeah, I get that. Okay. But they didn't have anybody to develop. Now they're going to be up there. Not they, but fans, the media are going to remember Valimaki. Yep. Gone for nothing.
Yep.
It's not out of the realm of possibility Connor Mackey won't play every day. If not out of the realm of possibility.
Yep.
Pelche sat in the press box for 6 days. Why? Or 6 games. Why? Because the coach was trying to send a message to GM, don't force players on me. Mm-hmm. And then Matt Phillips, Darryl, we can make criticisms of Darryl, and I like Darryl. I don't know why I have to do this every single time, but I almost feel like every time you say something bad, you have to. I like Darryl. Darryl's a good guy. I have no problem with Darryl, but I don't agree with this idea that he does not have a responsibility to develop young guys.
Yeah, and I would say that the need to do that has evolved.
Yes.
As the salary cap has become a thing in the way salary cap usage has become, where you now need players on modest contracts, on entry-level contracts to be in your NHL lineup sooner and contributing. You need that because you have money invested in star players and other players, veterans throughout your line. So where if you were to go back to, let's say, 2012, 2013, 2014, and those successful teams with the Kings,
yep,
I would suggest that it wasn't quite what it is now, where you could keep guys and prospects in the minors longer, and you didn't quite have that same disproportionate kind of salary layout, right? So you need to get guys, and the average age of the league is coming down. You just have to look over the fence at everybody else, right? So so I completely agree with you, and you're right. He does not believe that. He's said that before. He even he wants them to be developing in the minors, but I don't think that's a luxury of today.
Yeah.
And especially with those guys that are gifted and are close and are that close, that's going to get them to that next level. And let's just face it, he could help that team. He was not your 13th best player. That's why he wasn't sitting over the last 3 weeks, right? Like you could tell, like the jump that he had, and all the. I've become a big Pelche fan, and just how he plays the game, how he approaches the game, and just the infusion that he brings into the team. You could see it. You've seen it throughout when he was with Team Canada and hugging all the players after they lost gold, right? Like there's a lot of character. There's a ton of character there. And, in that character, you're really muzzling it when he's in the press box, right? Right. Yeah. And I think just in, this is maybe me creating something but I feel like from what we heard from the players after that 82nd game, they talked about how fun it was for them to see, like they kind of got a rise out of the enthusiasm and the injection of that youth, right? Like, and this team down the stretch, they needed all those things. They needed positivity. They needed some fresh legs. They needed, and it was to roll out those same 18 skaters time after time after time as they look fatigued, they look beat. That is another thing I've looked back on as I think it's a mistake. Like, I think they missed the blown opportunity there to really use these guys to kind of provide a little bit of injection.
The forgotten guy in all of this, and there's no update. Of course, we're thinking about him, and we all want it to work out. But Oliver Shillington misses an entire season. How much did they miss Oliver Shillington this year?
Yeah, to think about like that, and that's actually one of the more, for all the conversation we just had about younger players and smaller players, he actually was a guy that found a way to get into the coach's good books and got into the top four, like a real testament to Oliver Shillington.
Yep.
So yeah, you look at how far his game grew last season, and like for any young hockey player, like the confidence that he would have brought into this season, absolutely, that would have been a great figure to have, again, just from moving the puck up the ice or jumping up into the rush. I think as Oliver was adjusting to, we all saw him mature in terms of less giveaways, less mistakes, bad pinches, whatever. There was a real concentration on his defensive game. But as he settled into that top four role, and I think going into this season, had he been available, I think you would have seen that offensive side start to come back again, because it became a lot more, that defense that becomes such a, especially as coach, you don't want to be caught with with kind of skirting your responsibilities defensively, right? So absolutely. I think this could have been a real good season for Oliver Shillington. And again, that's when we say they were a goal shy, it doesn't have to be forwards that missed out. There were some guys that had some down seasons, but a little bit more active from the D, a little bit more jumping up in the rush. That's creating, whether they're scoring, whether they're setting up. It's just an extra wave. And he certainly had the wheels to do that and the wheels to get back, right? Like, that was such a fun player to watch, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Darren, you kind of alluded to it. Today was Green Garbage Bag Day, the emptying out of the lockers, the exit meetings, and the last meetings with the media. Now they brought up the podiums. I'm not sure if there were one-on-ones afterwards or whatever, but I don't know how I don't know how I feel necessarily about some of the information that comes through these things. But a couple things caught my attention, and I'm sure they did to you too. Rasmus Anderson was asked about, the injury that he suffered after getting hit on a scooter in Detroit. I was a little bit surprised. Like, he came out and said he's not right. He's not right. Hasn't been right since then. Yeah.
And remarkable, because I mean, I think this, there's a lot of talk about who could be a future captain. I'm a big Rasmus Anderson fan. I feel like he wears his heart on his sleeve. I think he's a straight shooter. I think he's got all the qualities. And just to hear him talk about how like just in playing in pain for 2 months and came back too early and was just really honest about that. And that hurt this team because this is a guy that's emerging into an elite defenseman in the league.
Absolutely.
He's 25 minutes a night. both sides of special teams. The confidence when he starts spinning with that puck around the offensive zone, the vision,
Yep.
and so to know what he must have fought through just to kind of try and help and try and contribute down the stretch. Yeah, that was I did certainly catch my eye as well. And you hope that it sounds like it's more of he just needs a really good long rest, and I guess missing the playoffs will help that. But no surgery, no anything like that. But just to kind of get the body feeling right again. I think I don't think any of us really realize or know. You start to hear bits of it, but how frightening that was, right? When he said, he was just happy to be alive when he woke up in hospital. Like, that's scary.
Yes,
that's really scary.
Absolutely it is. Fellow countryman, the other guy that kind of caught my attention was Mikael Backlund.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's a lot of reading tea leaves, and I know there's a lot of trying to interpret, pauses and things like that. To me, it's the line about, I want to win a Stanley Cup.
Yep.
I've heard that before. It does not sound to me at this day and time that he expects or wants to be here. No, and I don't mean wants to be here in the sense that he's being, because he should have been their captain. He had his best year. You're the one that pointed it out. Like, how disappointed he was, yet he had his best year, right?
Yeah, no, I that did again stick with me for sure. Very non-committal, and you can't blame him. Like, this is why they play the game, and he's talked about that over the years. Like, you just want to. It's very similar. He's on a very similar flight path in that regards to Mark Giordano, who's a good friend of his. Like, they both live in the same area, longtime Flames fan, and so you know that the same thought process is going through his mind. I'd love to be, I could be the most played, the longest serving Calgary Flame, but that is way down the list on life priorities than winning a Stanley Cup. Like, that's is what these guys are going for, or just to have a nice long playoff run. So, there's a few reactions today that, to me, there is a lot of not just the pundits like you and I, not just the fans peeking over the fence. There's a lot of eyes on what's going to happen in this front office, because there seems to be a lot of wait and see what will happen. Do I consider resigning? Do I need to go somewhere else? What does the future look like? It sets up a fascinating conversation, but I don't blame Mikael Backlund. And this is a game, you're getting younger and younger all the time. And he just turned 34, is turning 34. He's going the other direction, right? So he had a great season, and if Calgary's window is looking like it might be 3 years down the road, I can see why he would want to go somewhere else where that third year down the road is actually next year, like somewhere where he can be, before his, clock starts ticking.
Well, and I think a lot has been made about not necessarily this year's group of free agents, because it's not that extensive, but it's the group that's coming up next year, and having just been wounded by not being able to do anything with the last version of this. What is going to happen this summer. And I'm particularly trying to drag my feet. I know this is a podcast, and therefore we're not supposed to do things that are time specific, but we have not heard from the coach. We have not heard from the GM.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did you make of the report by Friedman yesterday that there may be some decisions already made?
Well, you feel like there is something to happen. Like, it does feel like, I think about Brad Treliving, it's been a grind for him. And I think he's done, like, he's done a lot. He has done a lot for this team in terms of building up the scouting department and his drafts. When you go back to 2015, when he kind of settled into that chair, have been good. The way they develop players, there's a lot of success stories there. I wonder if he's just at the point now where professionally, personally, sometimes these guys become a little more willing to shift locations when the family's older, like you become a little bit more able to move around, right? Like, I mean, you think about how Michael Stone answered that question today. He loves Calgary, he wants to stay here because all his kids are playing Little League baseball and go to school here. But this is not the case. The GM kids are older now. You know what I mean? I think I wouldn't be surprised if he finds himself a different job that just to maybe he needs a little bit of a fresh start, and he won't have problem finding work. So I do wonder about that side. And the other thing that I think about the coach is I just go back to Bob Hartley. There's a little bit of do you get this comparison or this feel? You think about 2015, Bob Hartley, the team overachieves. Overachieves. A lot of career seasons overachieve. They go into the second round, huge expectations, come back the next year, it's a failure. And at the end of that year, what happened? They had to let go from Bob Hartley. He lost the team, right? They couldn't bring him back. I just wonder what those conversations are like today about the coach and in this day and age where the power of the player, like, how loud will that speak, and is that a change? And God love Tyler Toffoli, who's known Darryl for a long time, and that's one of his guys, and he plays well under them. That's not a unanimous voice in there. There were some struggles. Some struggles.
And to me, Darren, it's more, again, I'm allowed to sit on the stand on the soapbox and make comments sometimes on my own, and I don't get pushed back on it. So I'll give you the opportunity to do it. You've covered this team for a long time. 88, you started?
No, still in school in 88, but right after they won the Stanley Cup, because they looked at me as the jinx because of my first 15 years, they never won a playoff round.
Right. You were the jinx for the first 15 years. But you've done this for a long time. If you pull back to 30,000 feet and look at this organization, I am stuck on the fact that Darryl Sutter at 403 or 404 games over 2 stints is the all-time leading coaching or games coached for this organization. Only the Florida Panthers don't have a coach who's ever got to 400 games, right? It's that kind of inconsistency. I was talking about my opinion, and I can't stress this enough. My opinion is I've never believed that this was a hire directly by Brad Treliving. I believe this was an ownership hire. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I'm pushing back on that.
Yeah. Right. And now, hey, I think there's a bunch of coaches in there that are Brad's hires and they didn't work out. Gulletson, Peters. Yeah. Peters is an interesting one because who knows where that would have ended up if he was a good person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Jeff Ward. I look at it more like this organization in many ways needs an entire reset.
Yeah.
It's a Midland organization. It is very risk adverse. At times they have such creativity in their organization, but they don't allow it to happen. And they don't want to offend, and they don't. What are they really, really good at? Their foundation, sure. Their alumni, awesome. And I think they have some bright people. But if you look around the league, what do you say? Well, the Calgary Flames do it better than anybody. I don't know. Right? And you've seen this. I mean, since 89, 04 was a bit of an anomaly, right? It just seems like it's fair to Midland all the time. Again, you have to fail sometimes. I get that. You can't win every game. I get that. Outside of some of the new teams, the new expansion teams, what team hasn't had the opportunity to pick first overall in their city? Calgary, right? Never picked better than fourth, right?
Yeah. Guys
up the road picked fourth or first 4 times in 6 years. Including the best player of our generation. It almost seems like we're all Midland and we're all worried about the down below, where maybe we ought to take a step back and look at the whole thing and not blow it up. I'm not saying that, but how much? Because did Mackenzie Weegar not actually call out the building today?
Yeah, completely.
Right.
Yeah.
And that they do not like that. They've never liked that. They never liked players talking about stuff like that. Right.
Yeah. I feel like, but how much do you think is this ownership's vision? And maybe the GM wants to have a plan, but maybe he can't sell that because there's this belief. There's a belief. I sense that there's a belief that fans want this team to be a contender every year, and I feel like when you've long enough tried that and it's not working, I think there's an understanding that you may have to be bad for a few years, but if it means young guys, you know what I mean, like that. What's the blueprint? Come up with a blueprint, and if that's a reset, a cleaning out, and it's just say, you know what, we're going to get good for 2026, or whatever it is. Like have a bit of a plan. Because this trying to get in. There's always good reasons for it. Oh yeah, now you have Markstrom, now you have this, but that if you had a plan, then that would drive the personnel decisions rather than the personnel decisions driving the plan.
Right. I go back to the Mike Russo column in The Athletic this year, the Jason Zucker trade. And Mike Russo wrote it. Flames couldn't consummate it because nobody could get a hold of Murray Edwards. That's not you or me. That's Mike Russo. Mike Russo wrote that.
Yeah.
Right. The fact that Jay Feaster was never allowed to say rebuild. You can't use that word.
We've heard unnamed people in the front office talk about how hard it even is. A little bit of sarcasm here to hire someone to sell popcorn at the sideline. It's just, you get the feel that like everything's kind of complicated. And that's where, again, I look at the GM and how at some point it just got to wear on you when that's kind of so do we see a full reset? Like, are we thinking, could this be a whole new? And if they go that direction, what I will say, and you talk about the number of coaches that have been like the carousel. You never brought in a 64-year-old guy or a 63-year-old when he came in. That wasn't going to be the solution to the carousel because he was 63, right? Like that's not. But they have some candidates. They have two candidates in particular jump out to me. Ryan Huska, he's got the junior resume, he's got the AHL resume, he's got AC and the NHL. And he also is going to be a departure from what they have in terms of communication and like very different personality, right? So him, and you also have to take a long look at what Mitch Love has done with the AHL team, the Wranglers. I think there are two guys there that if it takes one more switch at coach and to add another short, here's another coaching change, at least now you have someone that could have some longevity in that role, that has some track record, that has some familiarity. Because you look at some of the other guys, and Bill Peters came over from Carolina.
Yep.
Gulletson came over from was it Dallas?
Wasn't he in Vancouver? Wasn't he an assistant?
Vancouver, like he coached at Dallas.
He coached in Dallas. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So anyway, so we'll see. It would not surprise me at all if this was kind of the tipping point for needing to do what many have been kind of saying they should have done years ago and done a kind of a bit of a reset. So we'll see. It's tough. It's interesting. No coach, no GM talking today. We'll see.
Yeah, and we did, we have seen some change. Dallas Aikens is out in Anaheim. Burke and Hextall are out in Pittsburgh. It's kind of that NFL Black Monday thing, right? Season's over, so now we're seeing some exits and that. So many. Now it's going to be fun, I think, to watch the Wranglers. I'm happy that there's, the Hitman lost out, but there's going to be the Wranglers around. That's going to be really interesting to see how that impacts the conversations around here, because now the attention's going to be on those young players. And, people are going to – I've seen this movie before where they watch them go through a long playoff run and they begin to over-evaluate or whatever and, assume that they're all going to jump in. By the way, we can add this too. So Peter Laviolette will not be returning to Washington. So changes continue, which means there's going to be opportunities out there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that's going to be a little different with this, with this potential Calder Cup run is it's going to happen right under the nose of fans and everybody. Like, it's right here. It's not going to be, games you're hearing about because they happen in Stockton or in, Abbotsford or wherever, right? This is, so I it's going to be interesting. There's so much, I think, excitement. Obviously, people, I think Walker Dewar looks like an NHL player to me. To see him back out playing a ton. Jacob Pelche, obviously, this is going to be a real chance for him to play a ton and bring all those qualities. And Dustin Wolf after the game the other night talked about just what a big fan he is of Jacob Pelche and the player that he played beside for a year was that same player at the NHL level in his 1 or 2 day observation, so there's guys there that are not just knocking on the door that I think are on the other side of the door at this point that are going to go back and take these guys. And you hope they have a long run, just because I think the city could get into it. I think the fans are looking at those as the rays of sunshine. And, do they want to sit at home and watch the Oilers playoff games, or would they like to support the prospects and see them? I think you could get a little bit of I think it could really catch on in this. I think people that have gone to the Regulars games, in my social circles, they've enjoyed them. They've really liked them. And I think the crowds are going to grow. And
I do too.
I think it's going to be really fun.
I think they're going to have really big crowds. I really do. I think they're going to have really big crowds, and I think they're going to impress people. And I think it's an educated hockey market. Don't ever kid yourself. People know, and I think they're going to watch. Matt, I'm obsessed. I'm just obsessed. And I've already said it. If Matty Phillips goes somewhere next year and doesn't make an NHL roster, then I've got a big mea culpa coming. But I believe in the kid. I think the kid should have been here. I think you're going to watch him in the playoffs, and he's going to be dominant.
Yeah, and you wonder if that window's closed, like going back to this scenario of if there is a different coach, if there is whatever that landscape looks like, is there something that could move the needle enough where Matthew Phillips decides to do one more year, to re-sign one?
Well, if you sign him to a 1 year, if you sign him to a one-way, I don't think if you go to him with a two-way deal here, he'd sign, right? Right.
But because again, honestly, I've told this to many people, there's a lot of good players in hockey, a lot of good people, let me say it, people in hockey, but I don't know if I've met a nicer individual than Matthew Phillips.
No, you want, and that's part of it, is you want good things for good people, right? That's what you do. You want good things for good people. You're good people. I want good things for you. Thank you for finally making time and coming on this program. I know it was a hardship for you. Well, not a hardship, but we had to move some pieces around the chessboard. But I appreciate it.
Well, it was a pleasure, and the hockey talk is not stopping today.
No, as a matter of fact, it might be starting.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. That's the one thing when you're in our business, if you will. Calgary is never been dull in the offseason.
No, it is never dull around here.
And just like we just had a season where we both agree was one of the weirdest ones, I think this offseason stacks up as one of the more intriguing ones in recent memory.
I worry that if they keep the coach, and the GM leaves, that that one worries me about reaction from people. I think he still has a lot of believers, and I think there's a lot of people that support him. But we're so conditioned around here after a season like this to gong a coach, right? That's just the way it works in Calgary.
Yeah.
So we will see.
I'm just not sure with the amount of dollars they have tied up in some pretty important players. I just wonder how loud those voices and that will be in this process.
Still doesn't matter, because the voice at the top matters. And he's a fan.
But he's also a fan of playoff revenue and got nothing this year. And I
think, but maybe sometimes you got to stop. Yes. We got to stop the podcast because if I keep going, we're going to end up in some crazy places. Darren, as always, appreciate this. It was good to get you on. We'll do it again as the playoffs roll. We might even come back and talk about other teams. I don't know. It's possible.
It's possible.
All right, buddy.
Oh, good. Appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
There you go. Darren Haynes, everybody.